Hi everyone and welcome along. Now I'm lucky enough to have written books on watercolour flower painting that I can refer back to many times, but I'm also extremely inspired by the work of others. Most recently, I can't put this down, the Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. It's actually a book from, well, over 100 years ago, but it is an illustrated journal of Edith Holden's tracking of a year. It's a bit like a year of watercolour. It was a huge influence on me when I was putting that book together. But what struck me the other day is I was driving along and I saw a flower, this one here, which we are painting today. And I thought, hang on, I don't know what that flower is, but I've seen it somewhere else. And it just so happened to be in this book, which was amazing. So it is, well, some say it's a cowslip, some say it's a cuckoo flower, but it's actually a protected species round near us. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about it and paint it. So grab your paints and let's get started. So I've seen this flower growing around the banks of the roads we drive around in the countryside, and it's really interesting because I think it's like a protected species, this flower. And I've seen it called a cowslip, but also a cuckoo flower. So I'm really intrigued and I wonder if you've seen this flower, but we're just going to do a nice sort of curving stem and then we'll have some leaves coming up. And then from the top there, we have a sort of cascade of stems that sort of umbrella out, lots and lots. And this is the good challenge of this flower, is how we deal with all of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to place on the end of each of these lines an oval shape, if it's going off to the side, a bit like how we do with daffodils, or a bit more of a open flower, and maybe instead of, I'll have quite a round one, have that one sort of come to there. And that really helps us get a sense of where this flower's come from. And I'm actually going to do one sort of there that will be sort of coming up from there. Okay, it's very important to not have too much pencil visible on a piece like this. So we'll get that nicely rolled out. And we're going to begin with the flowers themselves because they are front and centre. And we're going to go for some Hansa yellow medium. And I also get some lemon yellow involved too. But it is a very buttery yellow, so it's going to be much more about Hansa yellow medium. So it's a sweet little flower. I might just do a little combination of the two. So let's do an open-faced flower first. We're going to essentially build up a sort of solid yellow with lots of these little petals. But it does sort of, it's quite a concave flower, so there is a curve going up. So we'll do this one that's quite open-faced as well. And now we're going to look at the more sort of side-on oval ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of place in the front layer. Now, with watercolour, you've got a choice really. You could do paint in the back layer, layer up over the top with the front, or you can do what I'm doing here and go for the front curve and then sort of paint in behind it. It's, yeah, there's many options you could go for. And there's not really a right or wrong as such. I just fancied doing it this way today. But hopefully it's sort of making sense to you that we're doing the near side of the flower. And then up here I'm going to do the sort of the back of the flower, so it's facing away. Lovely, and we're going to let that just dry and we can look at colours for stems and things. I find an awful lot of these springtime flowers have a lot of yellow in their greens, so green gold is going to be pretty perfect. And I'm going to paint fairly close up to the top with a size 0 brush and 2 parallel lines which also then leads me on to these leaves. The leaves definitely have more green in them, and they've got a lovely sort of waffly texture, a little bit like a primrose leaf. So with my size 2 brush, I'm going to do a sort of wet on wet leaf. Lots of texture in there, a little bit of unpainted space. It feels like it's been a while since I did just a flower on this channel, and that's kind of what I started off doing. So it's really nice to be able to do this. And also just so lovely to continue to be inspired by what I'm seeing growing around me in the countryside. So you can see how you can make these really lovely textured leaves just with quite a minimal amount of detail, but with a sense of expression in your brush. Now what I'm going to do is take some deep sap green. And these leaves are drying, but there'll still be a little bit of dampness. So I send that dark colour up the middle and just sort of run it through the sides. I don't know if you heard a thud just then, but a poor bird just flew into the door of the office, and then luckily it wasn't a heavy thud. It was just a quick sort of, oh, I've just gone the wrong way, and has flown off. A little bit dazed, but it's okay. We do get a few birds flying into the glass door of the office, and we have bird stickers on the windows to try and deter them. But there is a time of year where those bird stickers, for some birds, they almost mistake them for sort of rival birds, and they try and fly at them. Oh dear. But we're okay. Okay, so this is looking nice, and now I'm going to focus back on the plants here. So these flowers have these sort of long tubular sepal shapes, and it'd be very useful to paint this one in here so we can see it from the side. So you start with a little bit of a stem, and then it broadens into this lovely sort of trumpet. And if I'm painting these in quite wet, quite loose, I'm just going to create these shapes like this at this point. Now those ones are quite easy, but what about these ones that are all clustered in together? Well, you just have to sort of go one at a time and focus on imagining, especially these ones, sort of how it would be foreshortened looking at it. So we'd probably just see sort of the bulbous edge of it. We wouldn't see all of it, we might just see a bit around the back. We've given things time to dry now, and I'm now going to take the lemon yellow and I'm going to paint in the back edge of my flowers. I think I need an even smaller brush. Just to make sure I'm getting that colour and the detail on the petals. So at the moment there is a rough sense of two different yellows, so we can see the difference between back and front, but it's not hugely obvious. So we'll need to do a little bit more work on creating the difference between the front and back of the flower. But those pencil ovals and circles that we drew in the first place are being extremely helpful. That can be the challenge when you have a flower that has an awful lot of the same colour in it, or even the greens are quite yellowy. We just want to try and give ourselves as much help as possible. So whilst we wait for those to dry, the other thing we can do is just look at the back of the flower as well. Now, if I just get my quinacridone gold in, and I'll get some Hansa yellow medium. So if I just make a rich sort of golden tone here, I'm going to create just the back of the flower here, and I'm just going to sort of blend it in. We're not going to see too many of the backs, but we can. There we go, we can see those. We can blend that colour just into the petals here. And that really helps with the definition. Now, we've now got everything painted in, so if you were to rub out the pencil now, there's the whole thing would still be here because we've painted something of everything. So I am now going to let this dry 100%, then I'm going to rub out any visible pencil with my hard eraser, and then we can come back in for detail. Right, that's looking lovely, and this is my favourite moment because we start to add in detail. So I've got my 4/10 brush, and we can start to use slightly stronger colours. So I've got some deep sap green here. It's important to still use it quite sparingly, not to be too heavy-handed with it. But even once you've placed it in quite strongly, you can just wet your brush and keep it moving. So at this point I want to just establish, there we go, so there's our front little one. Then I can just get in here with the dark green, establish that curve of the flower, and then clean wet brush, I can draw it backwards. Then just a little bit more texture on the leaves, and you can see it can be really quite scribbly using green gold, no, deep sap green, I beg your pardon. Just sort of follow the natural curve. And then to finish off, I've got some fun little detail in the centre of the flower. There's a little green sort of disc in the middle. Which we're not going to see, obviously, the whole time. And then some lovely little red dashes. Five red dashes. And there we have a lovely little cuckoo flower slash cowslip. Do tell me if you're familiar with this flower in the comments below. I'd love to hear, because it's one that I keep seeing at the moment. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. But of course we have so many more plant and flower tutorials on the channel for you to enjoy, and then of course our miniature flower tutorial series that is floating around on social media, but we also have long form versions for our YouTube members and our patrons, so you can find longer versions of those as well. Okay, thank you so much. I'm gonna go and have a big glass of water, try and get my voice back, and I will see you next time. Bye!